Hello and welcome. My name is Sanjay Soni. Here's a microlearning readiness video. So now we'll switch gears and we'll talk about performance, security, and availability of SQL Server 2017 with Bob. So go ahead, Bob. Please let us know.
Yeah, you just mentioned performance, right? I'm a performance guy. I love talking about performance, but it's not just about that. My colleague Connor Cunningham calls this slide the meat and potatoes of SQL Server. That's a Texan slang, by the way. There you go, Sanjay. It means it's the heart of what we do in the engine. So you think of SQL 17 as a modern platform, but really behind it is the heart of the engine. If we don't enhance these three areas of the product, we don't have an engine that's credible. And so we need to make sure that your apps run fast when you go to SQL Server, that we don't break them and they run as fast as they did before or faster. We put automation into the product to help performance. Security is very critical. We have to make sure security is right. And then availability. So if you don't have these three pillars, we don't really have a great engine.
Yeah. All right, let's touch upon each of these one by one.
Yeah, so you think about engine performance, and we lead off at the top, and you look at the slide about benchmarking. Benchmark's not just a checklist for us. Everything we do is about performance. So we actually use TPC-H, which is analytics, and E, which is OLTP, to measure performance of SQL in many different ways. And we are the industry leader. If you go look at the numbers, and the key thing about this statement here is our vendors are the one publishing this, not us. So our partners go out there and they publish benchmarks with our product, which just shows you the inclusion of how performant they think we are. They're confident enough to publish these numbers with their products as well. You take a look at some of these other things on the slide right here. I mentioned about in-memory technology. So in-memory OLTP and column store have been out for a little while. And we've enhanced them in SQL 17 to make sure they're still first-class citizens. It's really important that people take a look at these technologies because they take advantage of the memory resources, as you know, growing in a hardware environment. We want to make sure we take great advantage of those and make your apps as fast as possible. Column store is one that is just not used enough in my opinion. I talk to customers. Imagine an analytic workload. You see this diagram right here, an analytic workload where you just put column store indexes on top of your workload, and then you can actually put it on top of in-memory OLTP and avoid ETL by doing something called hybrid transaction analytic processing. So that's something I think customers should take a look at as they're building new workloads for SQL Server. And we have other enhancements on here that we always are tuning the engine. We call it tuning. And you see some of those examples here. But overall, enhancing the engine performance is really important to make sure your apps run fast on this platform.
I see. And of course, query performance is the key part of this whole thing.
It is. We want you to be able to take your queries from your application, have them run as fast as possible. But it's not just about making them fast. We want to make sure that they stay fast. Sanjay, I think you were DBA, you told me that,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And so you deploy your app, you run your queries, and you get them tuned, then all of a sudden things start to degrade a little bit, right?
Yeah, they do.
And
especially
so
when users are doing random queries, random type of queries, new queries.
Yeah, they run ad hoc queries and things, and so that becomes a big troubleshooting nightmare. So the team that builds the query processor took a look at that functionality and said, hey, how do we build a query processor that's very adaptable to all types of different workloads without a lot of knobs on your part? And we built this new functionality called adaptive query processing. And this is an example right here of this where the query processor will take this concept called a memory grant, detect that during the execution of a query, that grant may not be desirable, maybe too small, too big, which causes performance problems. And then in the next execution, it can adjust that on the fly and cache and make things faster. I mean, imagine you running a query that kind of slow, and then the next time you run it, it gets faster, and you're like, what happened? Well, all you do is just go to the new database compatibility level of SQL 17, and this kind of functionality kicks in. And so we've got other features called adaptive joins and batch mode and things of that nature that fall into this feature tree called adaptive query processing. And again, it's just built in the query processor. There's no app changes on your part. You go to the new compat level, and then you get this functionality. It's pretty cool.
I see. All right. So also we talk about some kind of, if you have problems, right, what do you do?
Yeah, you think about query problems. So first of all, that was just your query processor adapting to your workload and making it faster and solving some common query performance problems. But imagine this situation. You're at home on the weekend, you're the DBA, Sanjay, right? You're watching the Seahawks. Oh, maybe the Cowboys. Well, I don't want to get into debate. We don't want to get into a football debate here, right? But I'm in Seattle, so I got to be careful. You're home watching the game, right? And all of a sudden you get a call saying query performance was great, but it's now it's degraded. Things have gone bad. Right. And you have to come into work even. You have some road access, but you got to come and use all your tools. You take a look at it, and the problem looks something like this chart right here. Everything's about query plans in SQL Server, right? So you run a query, a given plan looks good for like plan 2. Then all of a sudden, the same query develops a new query plan for some reason, and performance gets bad. And you're left on the hook over the weekend trying to figure this thing out. And you're trying to get back to the plan 2 state to make things run better. So in SQL 17, if you enable a feature called Query Store, which we talked about, by default, we will recommend to you how to make this better. We'll give you some advice. So now you can stay at home a little bit. Maybe you take an hour to figure it out, but we'll give you some advice and then you fix the problem. You still miss some important part of your game, right? The winning field goal or something, that's bad.
The awesome moment.
Yeah, the awesome moment, right? Or maybe you're missing someone with your family, so it's taken away from your work-life balance. So what about if you could also turn on a feature of SQL, like a database knob, where we won't just recommend it, we'll automatically fix it. So we'll apply the recommendations automatically for you. That's pretty cool. Would you like to see it?
Of course, the live demo, please.
Yeah, I mean, like, why not, right? So let's flip over. Always an interesting moment to do a demo, right? So what I have here, Sanjay, is a SQL Server. In this particular case, I've skipped ahead, I'm running 19, but I'm doing everything today on 17 and 19. And I always like to measure performance with perfmon.
Of course.
Right?
This has not changed.
It's not changed. And batch requests per second are the most common way to measure throughput performance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick off a workload I've got right here. I'm going to start report. It's just a report I'm running against the wide world importers database. I'm going to kick that off and I'm going to measure performance. And I kick it off, and it's not a big batch request per second, but you can see the numbers are high in this chart, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the regression problem. I'm going to simulate what happens to you maybe over the weekend, right? So I'll run that, and we'll see what happens in this chart. Let me kick it one more time. This is a little bit of a timing thing, so here we go. Yeah, look at that. So this is the simulation of you getting the call over the weekend. This is not good, right? Performance goes down. Now I told you in SQL 17 by default with Query Store, we'll advise you. This is an example query from our DMVs where you would run, and you've noticed here that we have detected right here that query performance has degraded for the same query plan. Now what we've done is we've also given you this script. So you're over the weekend, right? You detect this problem. You're like, oh, cool. I see it now. You've given me a recommendation. I run the script. I fix the problem. It's not bad. You did take some time away from what you're doing, but at least we gave you that recommendation. So that's one thing. That's by default with SQL 17 if Query Store is turned on. But I told you, wouldn't it be kind of cool if you could do that automatically? So these scripts right here just kind of set up the Query Store and the option to do that. So let's we're looking at our graph right here. We'll kind of clear this. Well, actually, I'll leave the chart like that. And I'm going to start that report again. Start report. And we're kind of cooking along, and you see we go back to performance. Now I'm going to kick in the regression, and I want you to watch really closely on this graph here. All right. So performance goes down, but it goes right back up. You see right there? We just fixed the problem automatically. This is behind the scene SQL Server engine looking at Query Store, detecting those regressions and saying, oh, I can make performance better. I can go do that automatic script kind of behind the scenes for you and fix your problem automatically. And now you don't get called, right, over the weekend. You literally come in on Monday, it's like a blip in the matrix, you know, like what happened here, Sanjay, what did you do? And you can then go at the Query Store, investigate, you know, what happened, what could have caused this problem. Wow. That's actually pretty cool stuff, isn't it?
That's fantastic.
Okay, so here's the great news. Adaptive query processing, built into the engine, no app changes. Automatic tuning, no app changes. You just run it, you turn on Query Store, and then if you want the automation, you turn on a database knob. I had a customer come to me and say they turned us on all their servers, CPU went down by 20% across the board.
I see.
Because we're fixing these queries and helping make them more efficient.
And without app changes the key, because you know that's the most expensive part. Database changes are easier, app changes are difficult.
Yeah, no question. So anyways, that's automatic tuning. I'll shut this down because I might use this machine again.
Awesome.
And keep going. Yeah, what else should we talk about?
So let's talk about security and then availability.
Yeah, so performance is one thing, and it's just the heart of what we do. We have to be very, very fast. But what good is it to be fast if you're not secure, especially in today's day and age? And I've been in this product for 25 years, and it wasn't always the case that security was treated that seriously. Now, if you look at this diagram right here on the right-hand side, this isn't something we just made up. This is the NIST organization saying SQL Server is the least vulnerable database for almost the last decade. Yes. This is how serious we take security vulnerabilities. But it's also about giving you performance features. So in SQL 17, there's not a lot of new functionality from like new security features, but look at this list. Whether it's encryption at rest or always encrypted, new end-to-end encryption schemes, whether it's you getting access to things like row-level security or dynamic data masking, giving the administrator the ability to change things in the schema to make things better from a secure point of view, or auditing. How about data classification and vulnerability assessment? So it's a suite of security features, and you're going to find, here's the cool thing, this is going to work across SQL, Windows, and Linux, because again, we're a compatible system across these platforms. So this is kind of what overall if you were asking me like, why is SQL secure, I would give this pitch to you and say, this is why we think we've got a great security platform.
Awesome. And of course, high availability and disaster recovery is another key point.
Yeah, if you're fast, okay, that's great. If you're secure, that's good. But what if I can't access the database? So, you know, availability group's the flagship HADR feature of SQL Server, and it still runs great on SQL 17. We made some great performance enhancements in SQL 16 that exist in 17. We noticed something about, as we're developing SQL 17, about this AG system, and that is the engine has all the capabilities to ship replicas. It's the clustering software that drives the automation of failover, right? So we work hand in hand with that. But the engine has all the replica concepts, right? So some of our customers said, could I actually use this technology to build replicas of availability groups without the clustering piece? Like I just want to go read data from a replica. We said, sure. So now we have this clusterless availability group concept. And if you look at this diagram here, this is kind of radical. You could actually set up a primary on Windows and a secondary on Linux, or vice versa. Again, why is that? That's because the SQL Server engine on Linux is the same and compatible, so we're able to achieve this kind of functionality. So imagine you having a read workload that you want to kind of distribute off your primary server, but you don't need the automatic failover pieces. This is perfect, because we even do load balancing across these secondaries over here on the right-hand side.
I see.
So that is one of the key new features of availability in SQL 17.
Wow, thank you so much, Bob, for talking about performance, security, and availability.
Right.
Thank you for watching this video. Learn more about this and other topics at azure.com/SQLDW.